John Adams believed that the American Revolution was in the minds and the hearts of the American people. It was in their attitudes, it was in their sentiments, and that the war for independence was part of that, but it was not solely the American Revolution. By 1815, the United States defeated England twice, once to secure independence, the second time to defend its honor. The two great superpowers of the world, England and France, went to war in 1754. It was the first global conflict. In world history, we call this war the 7 Years' War. In North America, we know it as the French and Indian War. England won the war in 1763, but at tremendous financial and human cost. In an effort to replenish its depleted treasury, Great Britain decided to impose a series of taxes on the colonists to help pay for their own defense. In the English eyes, that seemed fair, but to the American colonists, it was new and it was outrageous. Public protests began mounting shortly after the taxes were imposed, and by 1775, a full-blown war erupted between England and her North American colonies. A year later, in 1776, the colonies declared their independence from Great Britain, and for the next 8 years, George Washington, as Commander-in-Chief of the American Continental Army, would lead his army in battle. He would lose more than he would win, but his ability to keep the army together against insurmountable odds made the difference. In 1781, George Washington led a combined American and French army with support of the French Navy against the British at Yorktown, Virginia, and won. The Treaty of Peace was signed with Great Britain in 1783, in which England relinquished her 13 American colonies. But the question was, were the colonies 13 independent nations, or were they one United States? That was the key issue at the time. States were taxing each other. There were land disputes over contested territory west of the Appalachian Mountains. Congress was ineffective. There was no strong executive or leadership. In essence, it was a mess. In 1787, it was agreed that delegates from the 13 states would meet in Philadelphia to try to figure out how to fix the Articles of Confederation, the loose framework of government that had guided the United States since 1777. Rather than revise the Articles of Confederation, the members of the Constitutional Convention scrapped them completely and established a new framework of government, the U.S. Constitution, which starts with the stirring preamble, "We the people." Between 1783 and 1787, one could argue that the new United States was a failing state. It was beset by all kinds of problems. The Constitution solved the domestic issues, but the international situation was much more complicated. The United States was caught between England and France, who were constantly going to war with each other. Manufacturing was really important, as was trade with Great Britain and France. But Great Britain, particularly Great Britain, began to stop American merchant vessels on the high seas, seize American sailors from those vessels, and press them into service. By June 1812, American honor was at stake. Something had to be done. Even though the United States was new, it needed to find its place in the world. For the next 2 years, the United States and Great Britain engaged in a war, what we call the War of 1812. There was an attempt on several occasions to move into Canada and bring Canada into the American fold, but they were turned back. But on the high seas, it was much better for the Americans, as the American Navy scored numerous victories over British men of war. The largest battle of the war took place in January 1815. Andrew Jackson scored a massive victory against a really well-trained British army. It was stunning, and it helped the United States find its self-esteem. The War of 1812 is sometimes called the Second War for Independence, and why not? We had defended our honor. The first war was to break away from England. The second war was to prove ourselves, and that's exactly what we did. And Andrew Jackson, the USS Constitution, Francis Scott Key, the Star-Spangled Banner are all part of that story.